We've been fighting a long time, and we have all lost so very much, so many loved ones gone. But you are not alone. There are pockets of resistance all around the planet. We are at the brink. You have no idea how important you are. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Ave Maria Stella, Dei Mater Alma, atque semper Virgo, Felix te
Afternoon or evening. Well, wherever, whenever you are, good evening. It's Steve with Suspedelium coming at you with Joey Olivo. Olivo? Did I say it right?
Olivo. I've heard it a million different ways.
Yeah, when someone asked, how do you like your name? Steve, Steven? I said, my dad called me 16,000 different names. Pick one. But we're coming up for a little idea that we've been talking about for a while now since the ice storm in Texas is prepping. And just a little prepping 101. Why we even think about doing it. Is it bad? Is it good? Things of that nature. So, Joey, thank you for wanting to do this. Welcome. Good evening to you.
Good evening to you, too.
So, what is prep? Why should we care about... Now, we're not talking about doomsday preppers, I'm sure. But why should we even care about prepping at all?
Well, prepping is an important, to me, as a man, is just looking at it from the faith standpoint, is to always be prepared to look after my family, and that's in any and all situations. So when it comes down to to looking at prepping, is just what can I do that in the event of an emergency, because emergencies inevitably are going to come. It can be something as minor as going to the emergency room, or something as major as a catastrophic event, given like the last ice storms we had here a few months ago. And am I going to be able to feed my family? Am I going to make sure that they're sheltered? Are they warm? Are they able to stay cool? And that's the mindset, I think, for prepping that we have to look at, because when you look back, there was a lot of shows on preppers, and they kind of made it look just way far out there, Mad Max,
Yep.
Kind of a deal.
These guys have 38,000 guns, assault rifles. They're in a bunker.
Exactly. They got the big, vehicles with multiple machine guns on it. No, nothing like that.
Even though I would like a turret on top of my car. That'd be nice.
Hey, I have a track, man. I could put a nice little turret on that thing. I wouldn't mind doing it, but.
Hey, we talk about that in Denver all the time, just driving by some hippie and go, oh, yeah. Pop, pop. Paintball style, folks. Yeah, paintball.
There you go. That's it. Yes, sir. But that's to me that's the mindset I had, and I'm in North Texas, and we had we bore the brunt of that of the electrical grid shutdown. We had in my area, we were 3-4 hours on, and then we'd have like 30-45 minutes on, and then it just continued like that, and we sat there and watched our thermostat plunge. Went from a nice comfortable upper 60s, low 70s to down into the 50s in our house, and just knowing that we were good was awesome. I was like, hey, we're okay. It might get dark, we have to deal with that electricity, but we're okay. We're going to make it through this, because I have X amount of supplies on hand to make sure that we are okay. To provide heat, to provide food, to be able to boil water if we needed to, and that's something that every man should take very seriously, especially in these times. We were watching the news cycle go on right now, and we see the things that are happening. A lot of unrest, world unrest right now, and wars and rumors of wars, and these are things we have to be prepared for. The pipeline's shut down right now. We're lightly impacted here in North Texas right now, but in other parts of the country, I know in your part of the country, it's pretty crazy right now.
Yeah, it's the last stat I saw yesterday was 71% of gas stations were shut down in the city. That was Charlotte. 8% in the state. I was wondering how that worked. But, I go down there. There's 2 gas stations. I just got back from doing a run, not for gas, but 2 gas stations in the entire town of Gastonia were open. So the panic is there. And then all of a sudden that will also impact food. So not too many people think about having food on hand to last 2 or 3 weeks.
Absolutely, and for me, it's more of a 6 to 8 week kind of a deal. That's kind of my standard for my family is 6 to 8 weeks, and again, just in case, and to know that my food is good for 25 years. It really gives us a peace of mind and comfort knowing that hey, if something happens, we're going to be okay. And when it comes down to it, when you look at at the prepping mindset, is there's so many different ways to look at it because there's so many different things that could happen. Even as early as 2010, the government actually did a study on the effects of an electromagnetic pulse. It's something nobody ever took seriously. And everybody was laughing at the North Koreans and they're splashing missiles into the ocean every few months. But you have to look at what really are they trying to do? Well, if they could manage to float a nuclear warhead over the United States and detonate it in space, I'm not talking about hitting a city, just detonating it in space, you would see that the study on that is they actually labeled it a civilization killer.
Yeah.
Because that pulse would fry every circuit, which everything in America runs off of the circuit. Our trucks, the semis that bring them to the market, the refrigeration systems that are in those markets, everything works off of wires and circuits. And within 3 days, you'd be talking about water purification issues at 3 days. A person can live for up to 2 months without food, but 2 weeks into that, you're not going to be able to make good rational decisions just due to being delirious and from lack of food. So even our government has from again over 10, 11 years now have looked into the real possibility of something like this happen, and we all see we thought that our grid was here in Texas. That's something I actually kind of always had a little bit of pride in. Hey, we have our own grid, we're going to be good, and we got humbled here pretty quick, but again, luckily we were prepared.
Yeah, the EMP is something. If people know me, I've talked about that for a while, just because I remember seeing this show. I think it was 60 Minutes. They showed, this was a decade ago, they have 6 planes that are EMP proof, and one is always off the ground, one's always flying. And I'm going, man, if these guys take that seriously, we should at least be thinking of that. I mean, I got EMP proof stuff for walkie-talkies. I could put my laptop in it because it was actually a live game scenario. They talked about that a couple months ago. I don't know if it happened or not, but just in case, I didn't want to buy a new laptop. But there was a book, How to Survive the End of the World as You Know It. Do you have that one?
I do not have that one.
A little green book, but it talks about just in case you wake up, it's a little too quiet. And all of a sudden you hear gunshots down the street. What do you do? And talks about having stuff for fire, flashlights, toilet paper, which I didn't think the Rona was going to do the toilet paper thing. I was kind of shocked on that one, going, wow, what's the deal with that? Everybody doesn't think about that in prepping-wise, but now that's the number one goal.
That's the number one goal. I'm not surprised they're not running on toilet paper right now due to the gas shortages.
Gas is the new TP now. Gas is the new TP. I saw somebody, they literally put gas in a trash bag. They double bagged it.
I'm seeing actually more videos like that. And today I was browsing around on Twitter and I seen people that took that idea and they were using like heavy duty trash bags to kind of, I guess, improve on that lady's idea. So it's just like, wow, what are we doing?
So what are some basic stuff to have on you? I mean, you get in your car, you always have a spare tire. That's technically that's automatic prep that your car company put in. I got stuff for in case the car breaks down that makes it glows. It makes you seen. What are some stuff that you should have on hand in the car, on your person, in the house?
So first and foremost for me is depending on the situation. Again, if there's food shortages, which to me seems like the most likely thing that we are to encounter here soon is the food shortages, lack of fuel, trucks can't get the food to the market, and if they break down, the refrigeration is not going to work, so the food's going to go bad in a matter of days. Well, once the truck turns off. So the biggest thing for me is you could go to places like Costco and they sell actual food. They sell freeze dried food, 25-year shelf life, and you can start very simply by getting one of those, and they run $45-$50. And the goal is, again, when you look at these, there's some, small little details like, hey, it's enough for 4 weeks. Well, keep in mind that's for 4 weeks for one person. If you have a family like me, I have 7 in my family, that's, I'd have to buy multiple of those in order to keep us sustained, but just starting out really simple, water. I have a water delivery service that I had for a while, and the guy would always leave me extra bottles, and I would take those extra bottles and I'd stash them away. And so, I have plenty of water. We had the shutdown, with the electricity during the ice storm. We had plenty of water. When it comes, the other thing was fuel. Hey, if you don't have electricity, you can't turn on your stove to boil water. So how are you going to do that? Having extra propane tanks that you can store, outside in a secure place away from your home. That's an important thing to look at is how do you stay warm? How do you boil or cook your food? And then when it comes down to actual grocery items, I'm actually, I have a list of, I had to go and dig out. And we did the show. I'm like, hey, you know what? I need to go dig this list out because I've kind of had it stashed away for a while. But, going down the list, there's a few things on here. So you have like your soft grains, barley and rye. Those have an 8-year shelf life. Again, and these are all going to be contingent, the ones that I'm listing here, on, when you store them properly, store them in a cool, dry place, and have oxygen absorbers in them, they're easy to get a hold of. Your hard grains, you're looking at 10 to 12 years on those. Oatmeal, that could be up to 30 years. White rice, 20 years. Dry pasta, 30 years. Canned spaghetti, canned meats, those can go from 2 years. And what we do at our house is we, for our extra stuff that we have, is we have our canned meats, to say, for example, Spam and stuff like that. We'll take them and we'll make meals, but when we take them, we replace them, and that way we always have a nice stock of those, but we're always constantly using them, so they're always fresh, and there's always like a reset that's being done on those every time we consume those. Potatoes, jerkies, those all have, 1 to 2 year life, shelf life on those, and you're going to want to have those handy. And you can really just turn, a spare closet into an extra pantry, and now to me is not the time to be worried, like, I'm going to have guests come over and I have my hall closet for coats. I don't use my hall closet for coats anymore. It's used for extra supplies.
Yeah, you can get like a coat hanger for something like that. So.
Exactly. Like, just throw the coat on the couch,
What about things like, you mentioned water? Are there systems, I know it's a softball, to be able to purify your own water with electricity, without electricity?
Absolutely. So, one of the sites that we have is My Patriot Supply. That's who I personally use. I've actually tested their food. I like their food. They have a water filtration device, a burpee device, and you can pour water in at the top, and by the time it gets to the bottom, it's removed like 99.9% of all bacteria, viruses, and things like that, so that you can safely drink that water. If you're on the move, you can take, they sell, even at your big box stores, they sell survival water straws. You can literally put into any puddle on the ground and drink from it, and that water will be safe for you to drink. Those are the most practical ways of doing that.
I've actually seen videos of that, and yeah, we got a Berkey here. So everyone in Denver that I knew had a Berkey. It was pushing us to get one. I'm going, okay, and then it took a while for us to get one over here because it all hit when the crisis last year started going down, and they were all on back order. So say other things like, all right, you're out of electricity. Is there stuff like waterproof matches, or is wood a good idea? How do you stock them? What do you do? I mean, there's a difference between on having a rental apartment versus house. So even where you live needs to be part of consideration, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can turn, you can even turn your bed underneath your bed area into a storage place for your supplies. And yeah, definitely. There's waterproof matches. For me, I've familiarized my son, my oldest son, with how to use magnesium fire starters. It burns extremely hot, and you can light it in any condition. And you can pick those up for just a few dollars, at Academy or whatever big box, sports store or outdoor store that's around you. There's all kinds of different kinetic devices that you can do to start fires now. You know, having cotton swabs, cotton balls. You know, something that's gonna spark easily. Those are common household items that you can use to start a fire to stay warm or to cook food.
What about other things? I mean, you got the lights, you got batteries, you need batteries. Is there like a website checklist that people can get? I mean, you had a list, you just mentioned it. Is there something like you need this for everyday survival thing? I mean, there's going to be something you forget.
There's always something you're going to forget. But you know, there's a lot of just real basic websites. I mean, any of these survival food, you know, these prepper kind of stores where they sell food and supplies. There's a lot of them that actually have a list of the things that you should have. You know, and a lot of things that get overlooked is, you know, like having a medical kit, you know, a comprehensive one. You have your basic one for, you know, cuts and scratches, but, you know, do you have something to do stitches? You know, if you need to do stitches, do you have a splint in case of a broken bone? Do you have, you know, something to you know, quick clot in case there's a bullet wound? You know, you can get, you know, accidental discharge when you're hunting or something. Are you going to be able to handle that situation and to handle it calmly? And those are little things that you kind of tend to overlook, you know, and the best thing to do is to really, for me, is to not overthink it, because like for me and my family, you know, we have, you know, friends to where, like, if we felt like we needed to get out of the city, we have our big van, you know, it's a 12-person van. It has removable, like some of the rows are removable. And we know that there's only so much that we're going to be able to take with us, you know. So the basics of food, supplies, hunting gear, fishing gear, you know, those extreme essentials are the things that you're going to want, you know, something to be able to make a fire, you know, a little bit of wood to kind of get you going. You know, those are really the most important things. And you can find those, like I said, you know, on any of those websites, you know, they often include them. And then you can just print out that checklist. And what I do is I keep, you know, a tally, you know, how much of this, I have a 2-week supply of this, I have X amount of this, you know, and that's how we stay organized. And, you know, it's not something that you have to, like, you know, live and eat and breathe by, but, you know, just to get a nice collection going. And it's just as simple as just allocating, you know, like, hey, you know, instead of this month, instead of going out and eating at this restaurant that we always go at, we're going to allocate that money towards, you know, buying, you know, something that we really do need in the event of emergency.
Yeah, I'm one of those weird guys. There's a book called Survivor's Club. It said 10% of the people are one of those that look for exit holes or exit areas, scout out the position, size up everyone that's in the room. 10%, the other bottom 10% just do not care. And then the middle 80% are basically those that just will follow anybody that takes a lead. I walk into a restaurant, I'm already immediately looking out for where's the exit points, who's in where. I actually can look in my glass and see reflections of people. People think I'm weird as anything on this, or look off the mirror windows. My wife said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I saw that guy walking in. I just wanted to take a peek." You're looking at the window. Yes. For people that don't have that mindset, this might be so far-fetched or overwhelming. I mean, there's a family friend my wife just went to. They have nothing ready. If something happened tomorrow, they'd be hosed by the end of the week, and it's Wednesday, so they'd be done by the end of the week. If somebody's looking at this going, I got nothing going on right now, I have nothing prepared, what would be step one?
For me, is food. Food and water. Bottles of water. Buy an extra case of water. Put that one in your garage. Buy an extra a pack of pasta. Go to a restaurant supply store where you can get a really good price for a whole lot, and just buy one extra and put it aside, and you'll be amazed how quickly you begin to have a little bit of a stockpile of stuff. And really, in a month or 2 months, you'll have enough food to last you a few weeks. You know, is it going to be, you know, the most the best meals ever? No, I mean, we're not going to be sitting back, you know, and making huevos rancheros or anything like that, you know. But you're going to be able to eat a good meal with pastas, you know, to keep you going. You know, if you're having to walk or exercise, or you have, you have to work with your hands for a living, you're gonna be able to sustain yourself. And that's the biggest thing, is just being able, you know, especially for moms, you know, for us traditional Catholics, we always have a little baby in the house. You know, mom's got to be able to produce milk, you know, and you're only going to be able to do that by having good quality, you know, high fat content foods. And just by going out and just buying a little bit extra and putting it aside, buy an extra freezer. have an extra deep freezer. That way, as long as you have electricity, or if you can afford to get a generator, but if as long as you have electricity, at least you have that freezer full of food. And if the electricity goes out, you can pull it out, cook it, and process it, can it before it goes bad. It's just little simple things like that that'll help you kind of get established.
What do you say to those people that say, Joey, Steve, y'all don't trust in God's providence? Why are you hoarding things like this? Why don't you just relax? Nothing's going to be. Why the fear? Is this fear?
It's not fear. It's just dealing with the reality that bad things happen. Like to say, God has a permissive will, and He doesn't will evil. He's not going to allow. He doesn't just actually will evil, but bad things do happen, and that's why He's put. For us men, we're in charge of our house. We are the ones that are in charge. Our families have been placed into our care, and we're going to have to answer for that. We don't get to heaven. If something bad happens to all of us, be like, well, I sat around and waited for your providence. Why didn't you send anything? I was like, well, you had a grocery store right up the street where you could go buy food. You could have learned how to hunt, how to learn how to fish, and you didn't do that, so there's a proper order to it. Like I said, I'm not going to stockpile, a whole entire bedroom, full of supplies, but I want to have at least a good 6 to 8 weeks of food, water, and supplies, to be able to see my family through. And again, when you really look at it, it's not like, we're not sitting here, during a extremely, I guess you say like a prosperous time where we're in an age of great peace. Okay, you're in an age of great peace and you're doing this. Okay, I mean, you have like tons of stuff. Okay, that kind of maybe doesn't make as much sense, but we're in these times where you're seeing riots in the streets. You're seeing businesses getting burned down. You're seeing highways being blocked. You're seeing, rockets being fired. Pipelines are, getting hacked. And things are getting shut down. Those are little warning flags to say, hey, something's coming, something's up, and it's your responsibility as a man to make sure your family's taken care of.
I will go ahead and say you're borderline neglecting your family if you're just not even.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe you're completely ignorant, and they're not saying anybody's, ignorant, but just ignorant to the idea of doing this. No one's calling anybody a bad person or a bad man for not doing it, but now you got the information, you need to act on it.
Absolutely.
And we're not talking about, like he said, not saying take your whole paycheck and just go buy 1,000 pounds of green beans in a can tomorrow. But I was like Costco, I remember about 5 months ago, and I got my cart full because, like you were doing, recycling everything that you were, all right, what are we low on? What we got to stock back up on, etc. And I'm looking around going, the people in here are buying toys, pillows. They're not even thinking about what's coming down the pipe.
Nope. No, absolutely not. And it is a form of neglect if you sit there and all of a sudden you're caught flat-footed and, your wife's and they're looking at you going, hey, that's the first person who's going to get looked at in the situation. Like, hey, honey, why don't we have any food? That we're the ones that are going to have to bear the brunt of that responsibility. And I don't want to sit there and have my kids looking at me saying, Daddy, why don't we have enough food for tonight? I don't ever want to have that situation, and like I said, I served in the military. I know what it's like to eat, to have to go without meals and stuff at it, for periods of time, because the mission's more important or whatever, but I don't want my kids to have to go through that, and I'm just glad to say, hey, we're ready to go, we're ready, like I said, loaded for bear.
Speak on that just a little bit. That mindset of military background into a civvy land with the prepping idea. How does that translate from one to the other, and how can you help a civvy figure out what they need to do or get that mindset to, hey, I go outside, I need to make sure I have maybe a pocket knife, I need a rope in the car, something to start a fire, etc.
I think the best thing is, here in Dallas, I know there's actually a group that goes around and they'll actually train an entire homeowners association division, and they'll teach them like, hey, this is in the event of an emergency, this is what you need, this is what you should have, and as a community, this is how you protect yourself. And one of the properties that I know that did this is Preston Hollow. That's where George Bush and all those guys live at. And but they have a HOA deal where if something bad happens, there's unrest, they actually have a plan to have patrols, to have men doing things, to being proactive in the neighborhood and to make sure that the neighborhood is safe, but just having, being around, for me, just being around, for me, but when I was young, I always looked up to my uncle. He's a Vietnam veteran, and looking how he was always ready for anything, that kind of just imprinted on me. And, I want to join military from a young age, and just having that mindset of, being aware of your surroundings, knowing what's going on, and seeing the potential dangers all around you. So for me, it's just, finding if you want to get into that mindset or want to know more about it, find a veteran, find a guy who's been in combat or who's served overseas, or even the guys that, that push paper, those, the Marine Corps, they said, the guys that push the paper, they can hurt you with a pen, it's on their desk, they're all trained to act. And being around those guys have the mindset to not sit around and wait for something to happen. They're going to be proactive in it. And I think being around those kind of guys are that's really the way to go if you want to get in that mindset.
So you never went out on a mission going, nah, I'm not going to bring the water or any MREs or, yeah, I think I'll leave my knife at the house today or at the barracks. You didn't do any of that?
No, absolutely never. I spent some time at Bagram Air Base, Afghanistan. This was back when it was still a tent city at the time, and we had to live on there. I mean, there was 2 chow halls, but the aircraft I worked on, our missions were just around the clock, and so we had to survive off of MREs. And if you wanted to get the good ones, you had to get them right when they came in. So it was but that just being prepared, we ran into so many different issues while we were there, and every issue that we ran into, we were able to solve. And because we prepared we prepared for it ahead of time, and so when it happened, it was just an instant reaction, problem taken care of.
I've read a lot also on this. It's just like you said, prepared, practice. You go into a sporting event, you play basketball, baseball, you practice situations so that when it happens, it becomes second nature. Do you do that? I mean, again, softball, 4 situations, not saying, hey, it's EMP day. All right, let's just cut the lights off and see what goes. But is there situations that you, as a family, may run through as a drill just to get, hey, if this happens, let's all work in unison, know what you got to do?
Absolutely. That tornado drills is, again, we live here in North Texas, so severe weather is like the most common thing that we deal with here. And everybody has a role. Hey, tornadoes come in, what do we do? And, my 15-year-old son, the football player, he grabs the mattress and, hauls it across the house, and then my wife and my oldest daughter, they grab the little ones and they herd them into our safe shelter area in the middle of our house. And we see how fast we can do that. We've run drills on, hey, we need to get out of the city right now. How quickly, what do we need to grab? What is it that we need? Do we know where those things are located at? How quickly can we get it loaded up and get on the road? Those are all things that, for some people, again, if you're a civilian and you don't have that mindset, that mindset sounds silly to you. But again, in the events of, say civil unrest and in one of the more, extreme, it doesn't sound too extreme nowadays, but how quickly could you get out of a city? Mm-hmm. Are you going to be sitting around wondering, looking around like, oh, should I take this or should I take that? No, it's, I know what I need, get it in the vehicle and let's get out of here. Those are things that, now in these times, you need to spend time doing these things and being prepared to get up and go and get it done efficiently.
What's in your bug out bag? What should somebody have in a bug out bag? Say, and describe what that is for somebody that, again, never heard that term before.
So for me, it's going to be my basic medical kit. At a minimum, I have my basic medical kit. I have a more comprehensive kit that's in my vehicle, and we have a little side panel that we can pull out. We have a more comprehensive kit in there. We have your flashlight. We have fire starters. We have a fuel device where we can actually use it to fuel and start a fire. Of course, we have, personal protection equipment, as far as, pew, pew, bang, bang. We have, a basic food kit so we can get out, those basic food kits, they're really small because they're vacuum sealed. So you can put a lot into a medium-sized bag, and you can get out of town for a few days and have plenty of supplies, survival drinking water straws. That pretty much wraps up mine. That's what we have in ours.
So what is the term, what bug out bag, for someone that hasn't heard that before, what is it and why is it important?
A bug out bag is something that you can quickly grab and get out the door. It's something that's going to have what you need, the bare essentials for what you need to get yourself out of a bad situation. That's the most simple terms you can put a bug out bag into.
So a few more, just like I said, I don't want to go, there's so easily to go down a few rabbit holes and really make this fun, but we'll do it later. But what is some of the worst things to do in this situation? Starting out as a prepper, not even saying we're prepping, just being prepared. Starting out is getting everything ready. What's the worst thing people can do in these situations?
Just rushing into it and buying too much and allocating too much of your money into buying too much at one time. Because that's going to put you into a financial bind, and that's something you really don't want to do. The other thing you want to do is don't go like, oh my goodness, I need to do this right now. I'm watching this video and I need to go online and just buy something. Don't do that. You need to do your research. A lot of these places offer samples. You can take samples. Again, if I'm going to eat, that kind of food, I want it to at least taste as good as it can taste. And it also depends on your budget. But you don't want to rush into it and spend hundreds, if not thousands, more dollars than what you would spend on being able to buy something else that's more affordable, just as efficient. You don't want to just rush into it. You really need to take the time, and that's why it's important now is to take the time to shop around, look for discounts, look for ways that you can save money on these sorts of things. It is important to do. I'm not saying that you need to have a full kit next week, but again, if you can do it over the next few months, just allocate a little bit of money and shop around. There's off-brand things that work just as good as some of the name brand stuff, and for me, that's the biggest error you can make is to rush into this without doing research on it. Just buying random canned items, and you find out it's only good for a year when you can buy something else and it's good for 10 years. Just sitting down and doing a little bit of research. All you men out there, get online, spare a little bit of sleep, get online late at night, and do a little research on these things, and formulate a plan. You got to formulate your plan first. Don't just rush into it. If you formulate a plan, this is the most important. Prioritize what needs to be taken care of now. The needs that, like right now we don't have a lot of groceries. That needs to be your number one focus. Okay, now after groceries, do I have a way to protect my family? Okay, well then we need to address that next. Do I have enough, supplies as far as, let's say, fuel supplies? If but here at my home we have, natural gas, so I'm not super worried about that. But even that, I kind of brought that up because a lot of people don't know this. I have a buddy of mine that actually he's one of the managers for the gas company that produces the gas. It actually gives all of North Texas the gas. And we were talking one day, and he goes, Joey, because we actually came within 24 hours of running out of gas. I was like, wow. He goes, what would you have done? I was like, well, I had multiple propane tanks on hand, so we would have been okay for a little while, And a lot of people did. I bet a lot of people didn't know that, But we actually came within 24 hours, within a day, of actually tapping out our gas supply here in North Texas.
Yeah, that'd been a bigger story.
And this massive story. It's something that didn't get covered in the media.
Yeah,
it didn't get any type of coverage in the media.
And also, this is stuff that you're not going to want to post on Facebook or Twitter that you're doing this, or I would say knowing your neighbors, but not telling the whole neighborhood unless you know them real well, just in case they come after you. Yeah.
So fortunately, in my position is I have a tactical police officer that's a neighbor. I have a fire marshal that lives down the street. So my situation is kind of ideal. I have a lot of officers, and actually in my neighborhood we have a small police station where they come out of when they go on and off shift. right up the street, so, but just knowing, again, knowing your neighbors, getting to know your neighbors. If you get to know your neighbors, eventually, you can kind of ask, soft questions to kind of see what their mindset is. And if you find that you have a similar mindset, that's something that you should explore and create those networks. I have a good network of men that I talk to, I trust. I actually had one of them out here about a year ago, and I was like, I'd always dream about putting a pool in my backyard. And I said, you know what? Raised beds. We're gonna start growing some food, and that's what we're doing now. Actually, the meal I had last night, I had had a salad, and a couple weeks ago I had some more food that was actually produced right here from our own garden, and it didn't cost me anything except for the price of the seeds, and I have my own herbs, and learning how to create those networks for, hey, if things go bad, maybe my neighbor has more water than I do, and if, but maybe he doesn't have, lettuce or greens or something like that, or herbs. And you can learn to trade and barter, it's, again, here in Texas, different parts of the country, network, get to know one of your local farmers, get to know a local farmer, not one of these big conglomerates, but a local farmer that produces beef, lamb, goats, pigs, turkeys, chickens, whatever. If you can own chickens, have that source of eggs, or at least know people where you can do that, and you can learn to trade and barter. And, again, precious metals. Can't say enough about those.
Yeah, I mean, when you said the chickens, Corbett did a video on how to pick the right chicken. And he brought in a guy, I can't remember the guy's name, but he went over all these styles of chickens, depending on the location of you are in the union, really. If you live in this area, this chicken works better. If you want this, do you want meat? Do you want eggs? So it's not just the idea of, hey, I need to get chickens and buy whatever chicken comes up to your house. You got to get the right type of chicken.
Absolutely. You got to get the right kind of chicken. And then, you have to look at the, for me, is one of the things that we've been looking at is investing in land. Here in Texas, there's different ranches that over time, the owners die, the kids don't want the big ranch. So you can actually buy, 15 acres, 20 acres, 50, 100 acres. And I know at least here in Texas, they actually have like owner finance, like where you can literally not have to run your credit. There's no qualifications. You put 5% down. You can buy 20, 25 acres for $80,000, and you can make monthly payments on it, And that's something you could look at doing. Hey, you can go in with a buddy. Hey, let's split it. And if something happens, we have a location we can come to that's ours, and we could live here in the event that it ever got to that point. You could do that.
Yeah, with that idea, if Texas ever decides to leave the union, I'll be there for that one. Because I'm in a rental right now, so it pains me that I don't have any land. It's just a rental house, but I want to have the garden in back. I want to be able to grow their own food, chickens in the back, but I can't even dig a hole right now. It drives me batty.
Yeah, absolutely. And really also, some of the things we need to look at is what are the best methods of farming or producing food on your own land that are the most efficient, and for me, again, we probably cover this a little bit more detail in another video, but, the Joe Salatin, you can look up his videos on YouTube. Joe Salatin is a guy that has, he can take, there was a guy that actually had, he started out with just a few pigs. And he actually went to a farmer and was like, hey, can I lease, 10 acres from you? And the guy's like, yeah, sure. He pays him like just pennies, on this acreage. He leases the land from him, and he broke up the 10 acres into 5 and 5, and there's 5 sectors and 5 sectors. And he moves those pigs from place to place. And by the time they make 2 rotations, those pigs are ready to go off to slaughter, and that's 10 acres. There was a guy that used his program, and he bought a 10-acre homestead. The guy raises successfully chickens, duck, turkeys, pigs, cows on 10 acres. These are the things, again, if you apply yourself to it, and it's, again, this is, if you ever want to get, for me personally, I want to get at, and a lot of my friends agree with this, guys that I served in the military with, was I'm kind of getting that itch to get out of the cities. I want to get out of the city, get away from things, and it's getting too hostile. You're actually right up the road. I don't know if you saw it on YouTube this weekend here in Plano, Texas. There was a group of BLM people that blocked one of the roadways. That's not far from my home. I actually shop in that area, and this is Plano, Texas. Plano, that particular zip code is a very affluent zip. It's one of the wealthiest zip codes in the United States, and was often considered a very conservative area. So it was very surprising for me even that the police didn't do what I thought they should have done.
Yeah, it's amazing when you were younger, you want to live in the big city, but now you couldn't pay me to live in the city. I don't even want to step foot in a city, much less live in it.
I have a 5 to 8 year plan to no longer live here in the city. That's me personally.
I understand that. What are some websites people can look up to study the idea more?
So my Patriot Supply, again, that's the resource that I've used the most. Again on YouTube, Joe Salatin, as far as growing food, growing animals, doing those sorts of things. You can go to various. Oh goodness, and it's escaping my mind now. There's a great website. I have to give it to you. You can link it.
That's right. Yeah, send me some links. I'll put it in the show notes for people.
Some links that we can go because I haven't saved them on my computer. I don't have them memorized by heart, but just it's been such a long time since I've actually gone to these websites because I've been in this mindset for a really long time, and so it's for me it's just it's kind of second nature. it's just part of who I am. I do it without even thinking about it.
I understand. Joey, appreciate the insight and for this. And you have any questions out there, just drop it below in the comments section. We'll take a look and maybe we'll do a follow-up on a Q&A type deal, and we'll come up with another topic to dive a little bit deeper because obviously we just touched the top of the iceberg on this.
The very surface. We just barely touched it. So I'd love to go even more into detail on this, and I'll get a copy of that list of the. I'll get you a copy of the website that I use that has in detail like the shelf life of these different foods and stuff. And like I said, just take responsibility. Do your stuff. Do what you're supposed to do as a father, as a husband, as a man, and make sure your family's taken care of.
Amen to that. Joey, appreciate it, bud.
I appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me.